Hey, everybody. Welcome on into ClayShare Live at 5. I'm Jessica Putnam-Phillips, and tonight we have a special guest. We have Jennifer Fujimoto joining us because she has this amazing tea doll workshop coming up with us this Saturday and next Saturday, 2 Saturdays in a row, 4 hours of awesomeness. And she's going to answer all your questions tonight, talk about tea dolls, what is a tea doll, why you should take this workshop, because you should, and any questions you might have at all for her. So we're going to do this little hanging out. It's going to be a little casual. If you got any questions for her, go ahead and ask them. I'm going to be moderating. What does that mean? Well, that means I will be here typing on the computer. You will type in your questions. I will see it. I will verbally ask Jennifer the question, and then she can answer you all so that she's not inundated with hundreds of messages at once. I will filter them, and if it's a question that has already been addressed, I will go ahead and just type the answer in to save all of that and to keep us on track. We have about 45 minutes to an hour with Jennifer right now, so I hope you have your questions ready. I'm pretty excited for this. Now remember, premium members of ClayShare, you guys get 20% off all of our workshops, and everybody gets workshops forever. So when you sign up for one of our workshops, you get access to the replays of that over and over and over. So if you're thinking, oh, I'm not going to take this workshop because I can't make the live, well, don't worry about it. You'll be able to catch the replay and watch it as many times as you want to forever, which is pretty fantastic. Now, another little thing I want to share with you guys is this awesomeness you see right here. This is the mushroom planter we're going to be making together in prime time for my premium members. So another reason to sign up on clayshare.com or download the ClayShare app to be a premium member is so you get access to all of those premium classes. So today in class, because this is a big project, we're going to make the planter, and then next week we're going to glaze it, because glazing takes an hour and a half for just glazing this one piece, and making takes about that too. So it's going to be a very full couple of weeks for all of you premium members. Okay, let's head on out to Seattle and see how Jennifer's doing, and she's going to answer all of your questions about tea dolls. So let's go see how she's doing. Hey, Jennifer, how you doing?
Hi Jess. Hi everybody out there in ClayShare land. Yeah, everything's great in Seattle. It's a little earlier here in the day than it is for you folks, but it's nice. It means I'm a little more awake.
Yes, it's not the end of your day, it's the mid.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to have you joining us for this workshop. I'd never heard of tea dolls before I saw yours. So why don't you tell everybody what the workshop's about and what they're going to get?
Yeah, so I make these pieces that I call tea dolls. I don't know if you can, maybe if I hold it a little closer, you can see, and they are 3-part set. There's the hair, there is a cup here, and then there is the little head infuser that fits down into the body of the cup. So you can put your loose leaf tea inside, put some hot water in on that, put the hair on again to steep the tea. And then when it's done steeping, you can use the hair as a little dish to set your infuser in like that while you drink your tea. And so it's functional, but also fun and friendly, and will keep you company while you're drinking tea.
That's so awesome. So this workshop, so you want to talk a little bit about yourself maybe and how these came about?
Yes, so I am half Japanese, and all of my work is really inspired by my Japanese heritage, and specifically Japanese folk art. So kokeshi dolls in particular, which are traditional wooden Japanese doll. And one of my kind of rules in the studio for myself is if it makes me laugh, I'm onto something and I should keep going with it. So I'm always playing with that form and that idea and trying to come up with new ways to kind of incorporate that folk art idea into my work. And I do enjoy drinking tea quite a bit. and have a friend actually who owns a tea shop here in Seattle who was able to give me some advice on what makes a good tea infuser. And I took what she told me and just kind of played with it to come up with this idea. They are wheel thrown. So there will be a pretty major wheel throwing component to the workshop. Particularly this week, we'll focus on throwing and trimming. But we might be able to ask our friend Annie Kreitzberg to share. She created a hand building template for a tea doll. So, we don't want anybody to feel left out.
I know.
Yeah.
That would be so great.
Yeah. So I'll reach out to her and see if we can share a little bit of that too.
That would be fabulous. Because I know that's one thing people have asked. On ClayShare, we have people that do both wheel throwing and hand building, but we do have more hand builders than wheel throwers. And I love that, I can see how the form could be altered to be a hand built form. And I love how that's the possibility, because I think the focus of this isn't so much the throwing aspect, it's what you do after.
Yeah, yeah. And, part of it too that we'll be talking about this week is really about how to figure out what your measurements need to be. So, you can take those measurements and create your own templates for pieces that nest inside each other. So it doesn't even have to be a doll. And in fact, you have your mushroom themed thing coming up later tonight. I was thinking, I can't believe I haven't made one of these that looks like a mushroom. So maybe we'll play with that a little bit during the workshop too.
I know they would be perfect for a mushroom shape, right?
The shape is actually pretty perfect to be a mushroom. So that could be really fun.
That would be so fun. So what level would you say someone has to be to make these?
I would say you want to have some familiarity working with clay, but if you're patient and you can, think through measurements, and you could play with some paper templates too. I think anyone can make a tea doll. You just adjust a little bit to make it fit your skill level, your style. If you are going to be throwing tea dolls, you do want to be able to throw a pretty solid cylinder, and also like a small bowl or cup. Like those are pretty much the elements that are involved, is just a cup, a little bowl, and then a cylinder.
So those are all very basic forms.
Yeah.
So I think even beginners could do this.
I think so.
And I think, if you're just starting out, it might seem a little daunting. You're going to walk us through all the steps.
I am.
And it could be a good challenge. Sometimes people need something to really motivate them. And this could be the workshop for them to do that.
Yeah. And you know what? I was just thinking, gosh, I wish I had pulled it out, but I have somewhere here, and I will definitely bring it on Saturday, the first tea doll that I made, which is very, very different from the way that my tea dolls look now. And so you'll be able to get an idea kind of like, my starting point too with it. It wasn't perfect to begin with. It was much smaller than what I am doing now. And, you'll be able to see like my progression with it as well. Because we don't all start as experts, right? Like we're not going to be able to do everything perfect the first time. And in fact, I'll probably mess up a little bit on Saturday too. So I'll wedge lots of clay so that I can restart if I need to.
So I want to let everybody know, if you have any questions about this workshop, please ask them now, or about our workshops in general. This is your chance to ask before you sign up for the workshop. We did have a question. Someone was asking about the measurements for this project. Now you will give those during the workshop.
Yeah. And really it's whatever size you want to finally make, but we'll talk during the workshop about kind of guidelines, thinking about, if your cup is a certain size, how big you want the infuser piece to be to fit inside it, right? So like we'll just, what your cup diameter and depth is that you're making, and then you want to think about what the infuser size needs to be to fit inside that. I'll talk about my kind of homemade measuring tools that I've made to make sure that I have accuracy when I'm doing this, right? And that's really the thing, is like, it's how you want to make it. I will definitely tell you specific measurements for the size that I make, but you don't have to feel like you have to make it exactly the same. And in fact, I always really enjoy seeing what other people do with the form. Like I said earlier, it doesn't have to be a doll. It can be another interesting form. It could be an animal, or a mushroom, as we talked about, or kind of any. I've been thinking a little bit about what other forms it could take. It could be more abstract, right?
Yeah, and someone just suggested a tea gnome. I know people are really loving gnomes right now. So that would be really cute. So I think it's a good chance to think outside the box too, and come up with some new things. For the folks out there, you want to give it your own spin, right?
Mm-hmm.
I'm seeing if we've got any questions if you guys want to ask. So what kind of clay are you using?
I use a clay called Idaho Buff SM. It's from Clay Art Center in Tacoma, Washington. And I really like it for my work, specifically because it has just a warm color to it. And it has these little speckles that are kind of like freckles that you see with the skin. And so it doesn't feel as precious to me as like sometimes a white clay does. It has more warmth and a little bit more, I think, character, especially for, the faces in the pieces.
So cute. So it's a stoneware cone, 5 or 6?
5, 6. Yep.
Okay. But people could, use any clay that they wanted for this, whatever they're working with, earthenware or high fire. Oh, look at her.
So I have a couple examples here. So this one, the hair is glazed white instead, but it's the same idea. Cup, little hidden bathing suit.
Oh, I love that.
Then I have one more here example I can show, and you can see just some variation too, right? So like this one has like little curly bangs.
Oh, I love the curly bangs.
Yeah. You can have some fun with it. A little bit different style bathing suit, a little off the shoulder. So you can have fun with the decoration and personalize that way.
That is so great. We were talking about modifications. I love the way that you did them. Someone said they could do a snowman with a modified hat.
I mean, so cute.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Very seasonal too. We're coming up upon that time.
It is time to think. I mean, if you haven't been, holiday stuff is out there now.
Yeah.
So you talked about your clay, and someone asked about what clay to use. But again, it's any clay you like to work with will work for this.
Yeah, whatever you're comfortable with, I think will work.
And are you going to be using glazes or under glazes for these?
Both. Primarily, I decorate using underglaze. So all of the designs that you see on the cups and on the body and the face are all done with underglaze. And I use both Amico and Mako underglazes. And then the hair is actually glazed, and I'll show how I do that. And then for the infuser, the body part and the interior are glazed, but the face I like to leave unglazed. And then the cup is entirely glazed inside and out, but just a clear glaze so you can see all of the designs that you spent time working hard creating.
I love it. I love the motifs that you use on your pieces too.
you. Thanks. And it's always fun. Like one of my favorite things about the tea doll is that you get a little surprise when you pull the infuser out, like with the little bathing suit. When I first started making these, they were just plain on the inside. And then I started doing them with these little dresses or bathing suits. And sometimes they have bikinis or tattoos even. So you can just, play with that however you want to.
So I got to ask, have you ever done like a custom one for somebody as like maybe a portrait?
I have done a custom one, not a portrait, but an astronaut, actually. So instead of cutting the hair all the way out, it was more of like a helmet. And I'll find a picture of that to share. That would be a good one to share just to show some varieties too.
That's so fun. That is so fun. We had a question. Once you become accustomed to making these on average, how long does it take to construct all three pieces of the doll?
It takes a while, like all things with clay. You're basically throwing three different forms and making sure that they fit inside each other. You're then trimming all of the pieces and then cutting the hair out if you're doing hair. And then the time spent decorating is, kind of the sky's the limit when it comes to decorating, right? Like however much detail you decide to put in it. But, we'll definitely get through a couple of these during class. So I expect to show both, throwing and trimming. And then, in the week in between, I'll probably fire one or two so that I can demonstrate how I glaze them. But then also a little bit of the decoration technique that I do with my pieces during the second week. Yeah.
And I know you're going to be showing us wheel throwing. And for those who are just tuning in that missed the beginning, that we're going to work on getting some measurements for you all if you're a hand builder so that there'll be options for you as well. So we're going to work on that. Did have a question. Is there anything other than tea that this could be used for? I know they're made specifically as a tea infuser.
They are, but for example, this will show you how much of a gardener I'm not because of the state of this plant. But I broke the hair on this one and turned it into a planter. So I put a little plant inside, and you can water it from the bottom, right? Like it'll drain in there. And so you could make these as planters. And I think there's a couple of types of plants that don't like to be watered from the top. So it could be good for something like that. Anything that you, I guess, want to infuse, you could use it for as well. But, and they also just make good decorative pieces. Some people that have purchased them from me just like to keep them up on their shelves and use them as a decorative or conversation piece. So.
Right, because, you have the cup part and the doll and the hair. You could always just use the cup and have the little doll keeping you company while you're just drinking whatever you want out of the cup part. And then you put it all back together when you're done. So it's not, you don't necessarily only have to drink tea out of it. The options are limitless with it.
That's true. It would be fun to figure out how to make one that was like a coffee pour over too. I haven't done that yet, but that might be a future project. Oh yeah. Yeah, you could do that. Oh, okay.
Oh, so Kevin just suggested if you got a copper mesh screen, you could drop that down into the infuser and you would be able to do coffee.
Yeah. Right?
So you could do a drip coffee. Here's a really good question, actually. And I think this applies to workshops in general, but this person's been wondering a lot about workshops and copying other potters and their special pieces. And when people take classes to learn and make these copies of the artist's work, does every workshop mean you can make and sell a similar product? And they've seen people get angry that other potters make stuff similar to them. And she's just been wondering about this for making work. Like she takes your tea doll workshop and she makes some
Mhm.
tea dolls, and she's learning from you, and then she's making some, and then she's going to sell them. What do you think of that?
For me, I think my focus when I sign up for workshops is learning about techniques, not necessarily about uh, duplicating what's actually being made. So, what I hope you would take away from my workshop is the techniques I use to both develop new products and come up with measurements and templates for the things that I make, but then figure out a way to make it your own too, right? Like, I feel like you can't really feel good about just copying someone else's thing, like exactly, or trying to, because that's the other thing I would say is I think it would be a pretty big challenge to make my pieces look exactly like my pieces. um, I think that actually in the process of creating a tea doll and going through that yourself, you will find that your own your own flavor, your own techniques will kind of mesh with it, and you'll come up with your own thing. So that's what I would encourage, is to focus on the workshop as a way to learn techniques and then practice those techniques and develop your own style with it, right? I would love to see more tea dolls out in the world, or tea infusers that are styled in creative ways, right? They don't have, like I said earlier, they don't have to be dolls, but they can be dolls. But maybe your dolls, you know, have more of like a Russian influence, or maybe your dolls are inspired by botanicals, right? So, like, you can find different ways to just make it your own. And I think that it will make your customers be more interested in it too, if you can talk to how where it comes from in yourself too.
Yeah, I mean, that's the whole point, right? As teachers, we're trying to share what we know, teach the skills, and ideally, the people taking workshops and classes from us, they will take those and then they'll put themselves into it. They'll create their
Exactly.
own pieces. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, of course, we all imitate when we're first learning. That's how we learn. But then
Sure.
over time, you're going to put your own spin on it and it's going to become yours truly. So, and then I think the idea of the fact that I had never seen a tea doll until I saw yours.
Mm-hmm.
So anybody making a tea doll, I'm automatically going to think of you. But,
Right.
Someone takes your workshop and they're starting to make a version of it. It just happens to be a tea steeper, tea
Mhm.
infuser. But I would see it and I say, oh, that's, looks like somebody learned from Jennifer. I wouldn't think that they're stealing your idea. I would
Right.
never, right? And that's what we try to teach. It's not stealing when we're inspired by each other and we're creating works that start in one place, but then they grow to be our own.
Yeah, absolutely. And I would hope too that if folks do start making these, like, please share them with me too, so I can share
Absolutely.
them, right? Like,
And
I
what
want to show people what other folks are doing with this idea.
And I always tell people, when you learn from somebody, please let everybody know you learned from them. Don't hide it.
Mhm.
Everybody wants to know it's okay to learn from someone else. Everything does not have to be your own original idea. In fact,
Yeah,
there's not all that many of those out there. So
right.
share who you learned from, because it's just better. It's like, yeah, I learned this from Jennifer Fujimoto in this great workshop, and she taught how to make these tea dolls, and I've done my version of them right here, and they're mine because, and then you tell why these are different. Why are they
Right.
yours? Why are they so meaningful to
Mhm.
you?
Absolutely.
So we have more people chiming in what they're going to do with them. One person suggested mixology, add
Oh,
orange into bourbon, lemon into vodka, cucumber into gin. So you
yeah,
could do that.
other types of infusions.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
like a water infusion. You could make
Mhm.
a nice, like a berry one with mint or something, and you could set it there. That would be a really nice one to have. Someone said, with the cooler weather coming, how about doing mulled cider? You put your mulling spices in it and then
Ah,
your hot cider. That would
so
be really
clever.
nice. I
Yeah.
know we've got a clever bunch here. We're going to have lots of suggestions. Someone says they would like to make little Scandinavian versions of these. Yes. See,
Absolutely.
absolutely is right. And then into the plants that like to be watered from the bottom, African violets like
Right.
that.
That's what I was thinking of. I couldn't think of the name.
I kill plants. I'm very bad. I'm a bad plant mama.
Yeah.
And I love plants and I try. I really do, but I don't do very well. So uh, anything that maybe the way that you
Maybe
water
that
them
would
would
help.
be could be better for my plants. I think maybe I'll have to try it. So, Kevin's saying it would be good for his fir needle tea. If you
Oh,
if you like fir needle tea, we have an ongoing discussion about the fir needle tea. I mean, he just goes outside and gets the needles off the tree. Like he just goes and like out back and comes in with a handful of needles and makes tea with it. But hey,
foraging.
yeah, he says it's good.
Yeah.
So all right. So you guys ask your questions while Jennifer shares some more information. And, also if you want all the details, go to clayshare.com. You can scroll down to the bottom. You can see the workshops. You can see all the written things. Now, we're going to have a full tools and materials list.
There is one, yes.
So
And I
people,
believe it is already up on
I
the
believe it's
page.
up two. I think it's,
Yeah.
and that usually we hold that back a little bit, but we put that out there already.
Well, maybe we'll
So
add some additional worksheets or templates that will be extra special for after you sign up too.
yeah, if we get the templates for hand builders, we will keep that.
Right.
That'll be only available to people who signed up for the workshop. That won't be so you guys can't just you have to sign up for the workshop to get those templates. That's
Take the
how that's
workshop
going to go.
to come have fun with
Take the
us and our
workshop.
tea-dolls.
That's right. It's going to be so fun. I'm excited for this. I love that one.
This one is very 70s. This is my 70s doll. She's a little bit retro with the colors.
So do you want to talk a little bit more about your design inspiration?
Yeah, so as I mentioned before, I'm half Japanese, and while the dolls are all inspired by folk art, most of my patterns are also inspired by Japanese textiles. So I have a lot of reference that is like kimono fabrics or indigo and shibori that I look at. But I always like to, going back to what we were talking about with making things your own, like I will take the traditional designs, but then I like to try to add a little spin to them, right? So like, for example, this one with the wave pattern here, the traditional wave pattern is a little bit more regular, but this one has a little bit more of an organic nature and some like little areas of solid filled in. Similarly with this one, so this one is inspired by like kimono fabrics. But again, it's like I'm going to look at kimono fabrics and take my inspiration from them and then create my own versions, right? Similarly with this one, right? So like the original inspiration is a combination of this, what's called the shippo pattern, which is this 4-petal circle, but then also, incorporating the wave pattern here too. So it's a combination of the two of those things together that create this, what feels like a retro 70s thing, but has its roots in Japanese pattern design. So, that's kind of one of the things too. I was thinking about what are some other things that I've done. These aren't tea dolls, but more examples of patterns. So this again is the shippo pattern in a reverse. And this is just like a little dish, right? This one is like the Japanese hemp leaf pattern, asanoha, similar with this one, but just trying to like do different spins on things a little bit.
Those are beautiful. Did you, is that inlaid or is that just painted? Did you paint it on?
This is just painted on top. Yeah. just lots of practice with brushwork
Yeah.
to get those lines. And then, again, with the wave pattern, this is just like a modification of the wave pattern, right? I'm trying to get it so you can see it without too much glare. But yeah, taking inspiration and then making it my own through experimentation and play is the name of the game in this studio. And
so for anybody, oh, go ahead.
No, please go ahead.
I'm just going to remind everybody, part 1 of the workshop is coming up this Saturday. And then part 2, I guess I'll talk into the camera. Part 1 is coming up this Saturday. Part 2 is next Saturday. So it's the 21st and 28th, 2-hour sessions. So it's 4 hours total.
And you get to join us for the live and ask questions then. But if you can't make the live, of course, you get the replay and you'll get access to those forever. When you're signing up for it, if you're a premium member, make sure you use that link for our members because you save 20% off and you still get all the same great benefits of non-members. Well, actually, you get more benefits because you're a member, but you get access to it forever too. So if you decide not to stay a member, you still get access to the workshop, but you get that discount at the beginning, which is really awesome. And it makes it very simple to buy because it ends up not costing that much at all. Just a few trips to Starbucks and you could have bought the workshop. So it's just something to think about. All right, we'll go back to Jennifer.
It's funny how I always use that as like what things cost is how much it costs for a cup of coffee at Starbucks or a tea, right? And I use that as like it's this much, this many coffees or this many teas.
Yeah.
What is that? But it's true. It's often how I figure out what things cost.
Yeah, I think food and drink are universal, right? Like I often think like, what does it cost me to like go out to dinner? Like not even a fancy dinner, right? But just like a regular dinner. And it's like, oh gosh, that's like the workshop cost right there sometimes. Seems like.
Right. And I think when we think about a dinner, it's like a fleeting cost. You pay for it, you go out and you have a good evening, hopefully with some friends or family, and you have good memories that you keep forever. And of course, those are priceless. But when you get something like a workshop, that's a gift to yourself, to basically your ceramic education, and you get access to that over and over. So it's, it's not one meal. It's like multiple meals. It's like a bowl that's never empty.
Yeah. And you can make your own tea doll and then take it into Starbucks and make tea in it. Maybe not. Maybe you keep it at home.
I bet they would though. I bet if you showed up with it, they would.
Yeah.
Why not?
Why not?
So here's a good question. Someone wanted to know how many years have you been working at your art? It's so refined and beautiful.
Well, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. So not all that long, actually. I took my first pottery class in 2015. So what is that, like 9 years ago? And then I took another, and then I took another, and I just, like so many of us just became so enamored of the material and fell in love and decided after about 3 years that I wanted to take some time to learn more in depth. So I did a work study program at a local community center. And then I also assisted a local artist in her studio. So really, just kind of deep diving in both to my own practice and like my own skill set, but learning all of the behind the scenes pieces too. Like, do I want to make this into a career? Am I going to want to like mix glazes or do my reclaim? Like, how much of that do I really want to do? And it turns out I enjoyed every aspect of it. So I've been, yes, like I said, first pottery class in 2015, started selling my work in maybe 2018 and started doing some local art fairs and local holiday shows, and just have kept going. Just love it so much.
But to be fair, you're an artist. You've been an artist for much, much longer than that.
So my background is in graphic design, and I did spend about 25 years as a designer and working primarily in the tech industry here in Seattle. So yeah, lots of, the pattern work, I would say, definitely comes from that. And probably also a lot of the product design ideas, right? Like thinking about, as a designer, you're often thinking about the customer and what the customer wants. So with my work, I'm always like, what will people be interested in? What will resonate? You make a few of something and test it out in your market a little bit. But I think, yeah, a lot of that mindset probably does come from the previous 25 years in my career. So.
Yeah, and you can definitely tell. You can see it in your work. Absolutely. It's there. We had a good question in the workshop. Are you going to address selling these pieces? Because these are very unique, one of a kind. And if people are going to make them and sell them, will you share pricing and what, folks should think about if they're going to make these to sell?
I certainly can. It wasn't originally part of the workshop, but I'll make a little note that maybe towards the end, we can talk about like productizing, quote unquote, what you come up with and how to think about pricing, how I've thought about pricing and how my pricing has changed since I started selling my work. I think that would be very useful to talk about.
Yeah, I think it really would. That's one thing that has come up over the years that I have found people not just want to know how to make it, but the pricing and selling it, and also a little bit about marketing it a little bit so that folks can, tell the buyer why they should be buying that.
Yeah, for sure. I think I probably spend more time thinking about that these days than working on clay pieces. I hope that's not true, actually. I try to find plenty of time to spend in the studio, but I mean, that's something to think about too, is that, if you're trying to make a business out of selling your work, the amount of time that you have to make work versus the amount of time that you have to spend thinking about the business side of things and marketing your pieces. Yeah, I think that's totally important to think about.
And I think, one thing, and I think it's better now than it was in the past, is educating your customer in what goes into all the, what you make. And I know years ago, people didn't really know so much about pottery because we didn't have social media. We didn't have YouTube. We didn't have all these great places that people could share videos. And now I think the customer is more educated on their own. They come to it knowing a bit about it. And it's even better when people some of them, and some come very understanding what goes into it. Like they've tried and, maybe it didn't work for them, but I think it's our job to help explain to people, how these things are made and that it's actually a person doing it, not done in a factory. And, they can see the face behind the maker.
Totally. I always appreciate too when people are sharing their process like on social media, when they do it in real time instead of all the like sped up process. Like, I get it. People have really short attention spans, but at the same time, I think there can be a misunderstanding with some of that. Like, oh, it's quick. Like, yeah, no.
Yeah. Once in a while, I'll do a 1 minute something video, which is a sped up version of me making something, which there's nothing that takes a minute. There's really nothing that takes 5 minutes. I mean, everything always takes longer, but it's the attention span too, trying to grab people and get attention, get them, interested enough so they'll sit through the actual hour. Like the class tonight I'm going to be doing, I'm going to try to make it less than an hour and a half. I'm going to try to get through it as quickly as possible. But when I was glazing it, it took an hour and a half to glaze one piece. So that's a commitment, and that can be daunting. So if I share an hour and a half, I think like 5 people would sit through it. But if I speed it up to 2 minutes, they're like, oh, I can do that.
Yeah.
And they can do it. Right.
Yeah. I don't know. One of my favorite things about working with clay, though, is the fact that it forces me to slow down a little bit. I have a poster in my studio actually that says, allow the time that it takes, as a reminder to myself when I'm feeling rushed or when I'm feeling stressed, like it's going to take the amount of time that it takes to do what you're doing, and just lean into that, right? Like embrace the process.
But I think also with clay, that's one of the amazing things about it is you can get lost in it, and you don't mind that, say, it takes an hour and a half to glaze something.
Yeah.
Like I am never sitting there working and thinking, oh, I'm looking at my watch, think I need to hurry up and get this done. Because I am fully invested in that moment, which is one of the most beautiful things about, really anything, that you can be so engrossed in it that everything else falls away.
Oh yeah, getting into the zone is the best part. And for me, usually that is the decoration aspect, right? So like, doing this wave pattern is very meditative for me. Doing each of these waves, I can just like zone out and get into it. Same thing with this type of repeating pattern, right? So like you can just like let your mind wander, and you're just doing the thing, and it's very relaxing. I mean, I find throwing and trimming relaxing too, but those aspects are much faster.
They are. And I'm exactly with you with the decoration. That's one of my favorite things. When I started making pottery, I felt like I just made the pots so I could decorate them. Like I just wanted the forms to put decoration on.
Yeah, absolutely.
Right. Clay canvas. Exactly. It was just getting something. And so then you're not really concerned with how well crafted it is either at the beginning. You're just trying to get something that you can put designs on, which at the beginning, none of us are very good anyways at any of it. So it's fine. You just got to start somewhere.
Yeah, absolutely.
And we got a few more minutes. And that's one thing I wanted to address. Seeing your pieces, and they're so well made. I don't want anybody out there to feel daunted. We all, like you had mentioned at the beginning, we all start somewhere. So it's okay if you are taking this workshop. What would you say to somebody who is worried about their craftsmanship not being up to the same level as yours?
I think you just have to keep practicing, right? Like it all comes with practice. I didn't start out making perfectly round cups. And in fact, even now, not all of my cups are perfectly round, right? Like it all comes with practice. And I think, every time you make something and it's not how you want it, you can look at that piece and think about like, what would I have done differently? And what will I do differently next time? And how will I try to, adjust what I'm doing or expand my skills so that I can, improve the piece so that it meets the standards that I'm setting for myself, right? Like every pot you make, you're going to learn something, even if it's a failure.
Absolutely. I love that. So that's one of the things that even today excites me, and was one of the things that when I first started really excited me was, I was making the best pots I could make then, but I was really excited about the pots I was going to make in the future because I knew I'd get better, and I could see the progression. When you start out, you see it even at the very beginning over a few pots, and you just get really excited at how much better those pots you're going to make 3 months from now, 6 months from now, a year from now are going to be, or 5, 10, 15, 25 years, whatever it ends up being, right?
Yeah, I still think about that all the time.
Right. Yeah, same here.
Yeah.
25 years from now, what am I going to be making? I'm pretty excited for those pots that are coming. It's going to take a while to get to those, but that's part of the fun of it.
Totally. Yeah.
Absolutely. So let's see if we have any more questions for Jennifer before we let her go tonight, and then we'll see her again on Saturday. So this is your chance, everybody. Any last minute questions? Let's see. So when you're doing your design, do you pencil it in first, or do you just go for it with the underglaze?
It depends on the design. When I'm doing something that's a little bit more regular, like a pattern like this, I will pencil out a grid to start. And some of these I do also use like stencils, paper stencils, to get some of my crisp lines. So I'll show a couple of different decorating techniques that I use during the workshop. But when I'm doing something a little bit more organic, like this piece, I probably won't pencil it in. I'll just go for it on some of these. Although where you see there's some pieces overlapping, like I might pencil that flower in so that I know, okay, I'm going to put this flower here, so that when I'm doing my underglaze of the red, I don't go where I want the flower to be, right? So it's kind of a combination. I'm a little loose with it. Some things I pencil in, some things I don't. For something like, this type of wave pattern, I would just go for it. Like, it's organic. It's okay if they're not all the same, shape. And in fact, you don't want them to be. So it's more fun to just kind of play with it on something like that. Yeah, so it's a combination.
And that'll be something you share on the workshop. So
I will, absolutely.
If everyone's more interested in that, you have to sign up for the workshop. All right. So I know you keep a sketchbook.
I do, yes.
So that's a good thing if folks that have signed up for the workshop already, they want to like plan ahead maybe and get ready for this first session. Maybe have a sketchbook with ideas that you've already drawn in them, or maybe come up with some things that inspire you to get you started for this week.
And it could be ideas for what type of doll you want to make, or it could be ideas for how you want to decorate it. Either way, yeah. I think that's a great idea.
People can think ahead. All right. So I think we've got all the questions. Do you have anything you want to leave us with?
Just that I'm super excited. I think you have such a wonderful community, and I think it will be a lot of fun to spend a nice chunk of time in the studio with folks.
Well, I'm really excited to have you joining us. So thank you, Jennifer, for being here with us this evening in this Q&A session with a preview for your tea dolls. And I will see you on Saturday.
Sounds great. Have fun with the mushrooms.
Oh, thank you. Thank you so much for being here. All right, so there we have it.
There's Jennifer doing a little preview of what you're going to get in her tea doll workshop coming up this Saturday, the 21st of September, and next Saturday, the 28th. That is 1 to 3 p.m. Eastern, so it's 2 hours this week, 2 hours next week for 4 hours total. And yes, you get the replays forever and ever. Premium members of ClayShare, make sure you use that link so you can save your 20% off. If you're not a premium member yet, guess what? You can sign up now and still get that 20% off. So go do that and save. Honestly, it's worth it, the price of membership, with the savings that you get on all of the workshops that we have. And if you haven't checked them out, go to clayshare.com. And if you scroll down to the bottom, you'll see all the workshops. And we have dozens of them down there. We have, the brand new one coming up with Jennifer this weekend, but we have a bunch of others. You might find something that interests you to get you started. So I love the idea from Jennifer that if you have a sketchbook, grab it. If not, get a sketchbook or just even some paper and maybe write down either a list of things that inspire you or draw them. If you're not good at drawing, of course, writing things down, just getting the idea in your head is a good place to start. So don't feel this is out of your league if you're not someone who draws a lot. That's okay. Just write the ideas down that you might think of or things that inspire you. So maybe think of your heritage or designs you like, write those down, or maybe try sketching them a little bit, and that'll just get ideas flowing so that when you're in the workshop this Saturday, you'll start thinking ahead and it'll just give you ideas. Again, it is a wheel throwing workshop, but we are going to have some hand building templates for those of you who are hand builders, so don't let the fact that it's a wheel throwing workshop stop you from taking it. Part 1 is mostly going to be the throwing, and then part 2 is going to be making the tea dolls themselves and decorating, and Jennifer's going to throw in that little bit about pricing the work and selling them. So I think that's a wonderful addition. All right, everybody, thank you so much for being here with me. Premium members, we are making this next. I know, that's another reason to go sign up for the trial of ClayShare. Go do that because we're going to make this mushroom planter. This is so fun. It's a hand-built planter with these sculpted mushrooms, and you're not going to want to miss it. So I'll see you all in just a few minutes. Everybody else, I will see you Saturday if you're in Jennifer's workshop, and I hope you're going to be there. Bye, everybody.